you never taste chili in Thailand. I can't explain how chili tastes like to you. All you need to do is to give it a try. And that was the moment I realized that my life has been so hectic and busy for a very long time. To find unconditional happiness is like a marathon.
Hello my dears, my name is Katia Kulyk, and today I'm bringing you a very interesting interview with a person I really admire, with my teacher who has taught me to meditate about 9 years ago. His name is Monk Pasura. He has been a DJ, a hotel manager, he has worked at a travel agency, and later he became a monk, and he's been a monk for 15 years now, and that was the thing that he enjoyed the most. So today I invited him to my YouTube, especially to ask him about his monkhood and the purpose of life. And Monk Pasura will share with us his insights. It's really lovely to just listen to him, so please do enjoy. I've taken a bunch of your questions that you asked me for the monk. They are all here. And in the end of the session, he will tell us a little bit about how to start meditation and how to pick up this topic if you've never meditated before. The first question is, how did you become a monk and what did you do before?
I became a monk at 28 years old. At first, I was just like everybody. I studying in schools, I studied in university, and then I used to work as a hotel manager for a few years and then changed my job to be a flight attendant. Actually, my hobby back in the days during college time was a DJ as well. So, I had just a regular lifestyle, enjoy the life at the fullest. I also have a motto to work hard, play hard as well, which means I am trying to experience everything. At the same time, I also grew up with the sort of the learning of the meditation and coming to the temple, sort of like a part of the family traditions as well. Then I can kind of have this kind of idea of being a monk one day. So when I turned 28 years old, that's the time I had a free time, enough for me to take a little break. And I wanted to see that what should my life be after 30. So I think the best way for me at that time was to take leave from work for 4 months and decided to be a monk. At first I wanted to be a monk for 4 months, which is supposed to be long enough to get the idea. Of course, monk's life is not easy. The first few days, first few weeks, it was really tough. We were forced to, get rid of everything that we got. We only had, to sleep in the monk's tent, which is like an umbrella with mosquito net and sleeping on plastic sheet, and just a box with just a few stuff. So, of course, the first few weeks was really, really hard. But then afterward, I remember clearly one day that I got up in the middle of the night and just felt really quiet. And that was the moment I realized that my life has been so hectic and busy for a very long time, and until I don't really know what it's like to have nothing in my head. That's the feeling that I remember. Like I don't have anything, the ideas of what should it be tomorrow, what do I have to go, what do I have to eat, how should people see me, it's like what my appearance, my image, and doesn't matter, it's like clear. And that's when I realized, wow, that's what peace of mind is really like. It's really burden-free, and that's when I enjoyed it a lot more. So from then I enjoyed the time of 4 months. When it reaches 4 months, I realized that, I wanted to extend a bit more, so I took leave without pay from work until I got 6 months away from job, up until one point. I really realized that if I return to my lay life, I'm going to be doing exactly what I did before, travel, and then what? One day I'm going to get sick and tired of it, eating. One day I'm going to get too old and too fat to eat everything. One day I'm not going to be as good looking as I was, right? So, the joy, the pleasure in life seems to be gone. And then I would want to come back to find something very tangible, very real state of joy and happiness. And now that I found it, why would I want to throw it away? So that's why I decided to continue from that day until now, become 15 years. Even though today it's already been 15 years, I still took the very same idea from the first day, that just enjoy being monk one day at a time. And each day, how I can grow as a person, spiritually, physically, to learn more about life, to gain more knowledge, and just to be kinder to myself. And if I can contribute back to the society, that will be a blessing. So that's actually become part of my life.
Great. And from your past life that was rather active and adventurous. What was the thing that was most difficult for you to let go once you became a monk?
I guess everything. I always say that life has two sides, everything has two sides. The coin always have two sides. You can't get everything you want. There's always something to give up. So, even like late night food, for example, going out and, playing sport and stuff like that, it's something very, very common. And even, being a relationship intimately with someone that I used to have before, or even like, to go home and have dinner with my mother, things very simple like that. Actually, that's what I feel like missing a lot. But at the same time, I also look at what I gain. I think every loss has its gain. So what I gain is actually I was able to be more, what I really like is that I love to be more disciplined about it. I can never be disciplined about myself at all, and that's a very hard one. And suddenly monks like give me kind of purpose and direction of life, that I know what I should do, how should I act, how I should interact. Even though at first it was a challenge, but as time goes by, it started to become very comfortable, and I like this side of me to be more calm, more gentle, more kind, that I couldn't be before. So I really like it. And even though I have to give up a lot of things that I really enjoy a lot, but of course, in order to get something new, you have to give up something old. That's the way it goes. So I think it's kind of a trait that you have to embrace to get the better side of it.
As they say, you need to close the old door before you can open the new door. So that's the same thing. I actually had exactly the next follow-up question, which was from the viewers. And that one was, have you ever fallen in love?
I have been in a lot of relationships that I can remember actually ever since high school, and I have been in many relationships. I honestly, it's going to be hard to say what love is like now that I reflect upon it though. I was in relationship at that time, it was like a lot of passionate things. I want to be together. But now that after I look back, when I grew up a lot more and becoming a monk, I realized that part of me that I thought I was in love, it was not really like love in the notion that it's sustaining or really productive. It's more like kind of passionate feelings that I want someone, especially at the person with me. But when I really look the other concept of love, that's what my master told me as well, that when you started to practice as a monk, the way you look at love is more like this kind of, like 180 degrees instead of just particular one. And it's not about desire, it's not about passion, but it's about this kind of fulfilled intent that you want to see everybody in the state of happiness. And I think I never really have that kind of pure love before in this context. I did have a lot of passionate feeling towards someone. So if I want to define the word love in this pure sense, I would never had it.
Thank you for sharing. You mentioned that one of the things that you miss is going home and having dinner with your mother. And not everyone who is watching us knows that in your tradition, the monks are supposed to stop touching women at all whatsoever. Even if the woman is your sister or your mother, when you become a monk, you stop touching women at all. So how does it feel not having hugged or touched your mother for 15 years?
I miss it, of course, from time to time. But first of all, let me clarify with the rules. It's not like touching women is a wrong thing, but because in the monks' discipline, we practice celibacy, and it's very, very strict. So this practice of celibacy, we're trying to refrain from anything that would engage into desire. And actually, at first, in the old days, at the beginning, in the Buddha time, monks could touch lady as well, like hold hand and stuff like that. But there was a case of some monks did touch inappropriately, and that became the origin of the discipline. That since there was the case that misbehavior before, so the Buddha set the rule that from now on, abstain from physical contact, which also facilitating the practice of basically that's the way it goes. So that's why it become what we have practiced after 2,000 years. But then in case of the mother, of course I did miss it, and not only missing the touching or hugging, I think I missed the spending time like I used to have it with the son, because, and this is what I also share all the time, it was more like regret. I was during college, I always, teenager, we love to go out, we love to party, we love to be with friends, we don't like to be home. And I remember during those years, my father was working in different country, my sister studied in different city, so it was supposed to be just me and my mother in the house. And then my mother was, an executive in financing companies, so she had driver pick her up at 7 in the morning, return at home 6 in the evening, and I was never there. I left house at 4 p.m., came back at 4 a.m., so we never have the same timeline. And I never thought about it that time, that how I left an empty house for my mother to came back to for a whole few years. Instead of I could, be there, we spend a quality time together, just the two of us. And now that I can't, it's pain to think that why didn't I use it? And, thing that I thought was matter so much that time, it didn't matter at all right now. It doesn't matter at all right now. People that I think that matters in my life that time, I don't even know where they are. It's like, why did I waste all those opportunities? So I think it's not about missing what I can do, it's about missing what I could have done that got a lot worse.
I recently read this blog post on Wait But Why, where he talks about, he actually just represented all the days in your life visually if you lived, say, 70 years. And then he colored the days of our life that we normally spend with our parents, which is like maybe the first third or the first quarter of our life. And then he made an assumption that, for example, if you meet your parents for a weekend every month, then this is so many days that you have left with your parents until they pass away. And that was really eye-opening for me, and I realized, oh my God, I want to spend more time with my parents. So I can't even imagine the feeling when you become a monk and the only time you meet your parents is at a ceremony or when they come to visit you. But I guess that there are so many more other things that are rewarding that you have let go this connection for.
I think in case my mother, she was proud that finally I chose to do something, and in my traditions to have a son becoming a monk, it was a really good thing. It's like, I'm doing this and sharing, dedicating positive energy to her as well. So that's what she feels. And I think for the very first time in my life, I actually did the duty of a son.
How many people in Thailand become monks? Because you said that, I understand that, for example, in many countries, men go to the army and that's like their obligation and everyone does it. And in Thailand, I understand that most of the men have to become a monk at least once in their life. That's how you were engaged into the monkhood as well, because you didn't plan to do it all the time. How many percentage of men become monks?
It's going to be hard to put in percentage, but let's say it's a kind of long tradition that we have, that every man should be a monk for once in a lifetime. We have something called short-term monkhood tradition, that a man should take part into monk practice for a month to 3 months. This is actually for them to learn about how to be, to be moral, to be disciplined, how to live the life with the minimum requirements, so that if they return to be father, to be husband afterward, to lead a family, then they know how to lead a family in a proper and moral and ethical way. That's the idea. And plus also it is about the positive energy that we can cultivate as monks. Is one the way that we kind of pay our gratitude for the parents who have raised us, that now I have the life, I can use it to cultivate something nice and positive, and this is actually what I return to you, the way you grew up for me. So that it has become a tradition in Thailand for everyone to do it once in a lifetime at least. But then nowadays the time that they spend in monks life reducing to probably a week, 2 weeks and stuff like that too. So
I know that from the people who studied meditation with you, one of my friends used to be a monk as well. So could you share how somebody who is an international person and is watching this interview right now, how could they become a monk if they wanted to?
To be a monk is actually quite simple, but only one thing that you have to understand, that whenever you decide to be a monk, that means you decide to follow the rules and traditions and instruction from your teachers, your mentors. And that is something that if you're willing to take up for that, then the rest part is quite easy, which means you can choose the master you want to follow, and then you ask them whether they're going to be allow you to take part in the ordination and give you the training that required. If they say yes, then the rest is just ceremonial stuff, which is actually when everybody gather in the chapel and the monks will be there with the preceptor, and the ceremony pretty much like asking the permission, telling the community that we have someone who want to apply into community. Do we accept them in it? And then if of course we say yes, and then the process start. But the training part is the tough one.
Can they become a monk at your temple? Is it possible?
Sure, we have the training short-term monkhood for international people every year, beginning from the first Sunday of July until the first Sunday of August. And if anyone wants to stay longer, of course, we also have the longer training for that too. But the first one, at least, we want everybody to spend 1 month in order to really get the most out of it.
And can a woman become a monk?
Actually, sorry that in Thailand, in my temple, we don't have it. But in other countries, like in Taiwan, in Korea, there's really the tradition of female monk, because the origin of, in order to be a monk, you need a preceptor. And the preceptor is someone that has been, like it has been lineage back from the Buddha, and the lineage still carry on up until today. So this is what's going on in Thailand and all the Buddhist traditions. However, the lineage of female monk never came to Thailand since the beginning of Buddhism in Thailand. So the lineage did go to China, to Korea, to Taiwan. So those traditions still exist. That's why in Thailand we don't really have kind of formal female traditions, female monk tradition. So if you want to do it, we do have like kind of practice celibacy part of the meditation retreat for female.
Okay, and you said that when you become a monk, the main thing is to follow the rules. Could you share how many rules you follow and what are some of the rules?
There are 227 rules that you have to keep all the time. All of them actually related to your physical needs, your physical well-being, your daily life. But there are major ones, the first four, which is not commit any sexual intercourse, or killing a person, or stealing, or saying I have special power, superpower that I don't have. Or then they come down to the other one, like things like the sexual activities, physical touch with the female or ladies, or flirting. And then the rest would be more like looking after our clothes, where we should keep them in certain places. And then other part would be our ethics. How should we walk, how we talk, how we stand, how should we eat, the proper manners of eating. So those combine into 237 rules.
Mm-hmm. Am I understanding it right that all of these, how to walk, how to talk, they are all aimed at one goal, to sophisticate the mind?
Exactly, because it means that when I do something, I know exactly what I should do. So it helps me to be more mindful of my action. And mindfulness is the key foundation to develop mental focus or concentration.
Thank you, Lampi. So this was a little bit about your life, and the main reason that I invited you to share yourself with my viewers is because I know that many people who watch me are very interested in the purpose of life. And that's why that was the main question that I came here to ask you. What is the meaning and purpose of life?
My master said that the purpose of life is to find unconditional happiness. It's the kind of happiness that doesn't depend on external factor. It's kind of seem vague at the beginning though, but if you really look at the meaning of the word happiness that people were pursuing, there's actually the big difference between happiness and pleasure or joy. Because pleasure is always coming from external factor, new cars, new shoes, new clothes, new items, new friends, new people, new places, traveling. It's always depend on someone, something, somewhere, somehow, somewhat. Which means if I don't have this, I can't be fulfilled, I cannot be pleased. And that's when we spend a lifetime struggling to be someone, to be something, to have someone, to have something, to not have someone, to not have something. All the time we live our life based on desire. But then when we are able to free ourselves from these desire, and then we are becoming more content with who we are. And doesn't depend on anything. And then at the same time, our mind become more clear to be more giving, more kind, more compassionate, more empathetic. That's when we start to develop this sense of contentment. And that's what happiness is really like. It's actually something that we develop from inside, not something that we're trying to fill up from external factors. So that's what my master said, that if the goal of life is to be in that state all the time permanently, that means when we are able to free ourselves from all these sensations of desire, anger, hatred, jealousy, ego, and then we act based on that. That will be the very first start to have the kind of purpose, which makes our life meaningful not just to us, but to everyone around us.
Like, this is rather clear. So for everyone to master their own state. And then there is this question that many people in my surrounding are asking themselves, what is the meaning of my life? What is my personal life purpose and how do I find it? So another word for it is mission. So how does one find their own mission? Or is it the same for everyone, in your opinion?
For me, in general, this is like a long-term goal. To find unconditional happiness is like a marathon, which is 42 kilometers away. You don't know what it looks like. You have to keep running, and each step that you take, it helps you to get closer to it. You get to know it a lot more too. So each step is like a journey of learning, but you can't expect to have the full, complete answer right now, because we are talking about something that we have never experienced before. It's like you never taste chili in Thailand. I can't explain how chili tastes like to you. All you need to do is to give it a try. So the same thing is unconditional happiness, which is a long-term goal. Permanent unconditional happiness, something to get there. It takes time to get to it one by one, step by step. But once you get it, you realize this is what we are talking about. So if you want to define what the mission and purpose in life in one word, you have to go back to understand that we are born with ignorance. When we're born, we know nothing. We don't know who we are. We don't know what our name is, who are our parents. We don't know anything. We don't know how to talk, how to walk, how to eat. Everything that we know, we learn later. And a lot of things that we have learned was wrong. And we take it was right. The moment we realize that I don't know anything, and then we'll start to explore each step of my life. But that is actually allows us to experiencing it, rather than just try to take our intelligence to contemplate it over and over again, but never give it a try. If the goal, long-term goal of life is to find unconditional happiness, then it first going back to how do I get to know my mind? What it's like to be content? What it's like to have less and live more?
So for people who have this question a lot in their mind, and I'm asking because I was really obsessed with it at some point of my life, what would you advise to focus on?
Focus on the present moment. Each moment that you live, how can you maintain yourself feeling content and meaningful, not just to yourself, but to everyone around you? If you can start with that, every single moment, every single day, your life is meaningful, your life is valuable. And that suddenly will help you to find out what is really the purpose of life.
And that's rather a lot to start with, right? I remember when actually the first time that I came to your temple to learn meditation, Facebook was not such a big thing at that time, but I saw this post on Facebook which said, stop complaining for a week, no, for a day. Stop complaining for a day and you will see how your life will change. And I was like, yeah, let's see. And it was like 1 day, 2 days, a month. And finally, I just gave up because I found myself complaining all the time, even when I made an intention every morning not to complain. And then suddenly, like half a year passed. And one evening I was sitting there and I realized, finally, I haven't been complaining for a whole day. So you say to start with, I guess it's to start with an intention and then to build up from there. And one day there will be a life full of meaning, but there is at least one moment to start with, right?
We love to revolutionize our life in one day. We knew like I'm going to be a new person tomorrow. It's not going to be. You're going to be exactly who you are for the last 20 years. You just keep adding up on top of it with that intent. And if with intent you combine with your commitment and dedications to change, then you finally get it day by day, one by one. But don't expect you to be a new person next day. It's not going to happen. It takes time and effort. But it's possible. But you have to start with the intent first. What happened in Neurotech, we start from the perspective, become intent. It depends on what kind of perspective you have in life, which means, have you discovered for yourself yet what is really valuable to you? What really matters to you? Because if you haven't, figure out this one yet, it's like I'm still going, to have more money, to be famous, to have a lot of friends on Facebook and Instagram, lots of followers, and that will be your perspective. What will be your intent? What will be the course of action that you live based on the intent? Then what perspective you have about life that make you feel that this is very meaningful and valuable? Because that will dictate to be what intent you have and the way you desire your course of action. And then if you keep repeat the course of action, finally you will become who you want to be and you believe in.
And here you mentioned something that I also had a question about, which is, the question sounded like how to understand and to know what is important in life.
As I said, that we're born with ignorance. Honestly speaking, you probably spend a lifetime of not knowing it. The thing is that each day that goes by, it helps you to understand it a lot more, that things in your life is actually much bigger than yourself. Right now, we grow up in the world that everything has become very individualistic, and we spend a great deal of time concerning about my own well-being, not even happiness, well-being. I want to be very healthy, eat good food, have good sleep, have good friends, have a lot of money. So we spend a great deal of time being surrounded by that until I don't even realize what really matters. If you want to really start thinking what matters in life, I think when you ask questions differently. And that simple question is that when you realize you don't have any more time, what really matters to you? If you're not going to get up tomorrow, what will be things that you do today? You will choose to do things that really matters to you, things that really bring you the best part of joy and happiness. And you will know the answer. Those things are related to be kind, be compassionate, be giving, be forgiving, be grateful.
It really resonated with me what you said, and I recently went to a couple of trainings by Tony Robbins, and he says a very similar thing, that we only suffer when we are inside ourselves. When we are focused on serving other people, then suffering melts away, and he calls it a beautiful state. And I remember that when you mentioned, when we were talking about the purpose of life, you mentioned that it's to cultivate this state, and then it clicked with me that basically mastering your state is like the highest level of mastery in life, at least for me right now. That's my understanding. And maybe it's even connected to the next question, because the next question is what is enlightenment and how to achieve it?
Enlightenment in our context will be completely eradicate of mental virus in the mind. To put it in simple way, let's say that our mind is like a glass of water that have been mixed with ink over years, over days, over lifetimes. And those ink, each time it stirs, it changes the condition of the water, it make it murky, clouded, change perception, it change the way we see reality, and we act based on that, act on our anger, desire, greed, jealousy. The concept of the enlightenment is that we are able to filter this out layers by layers by layers of the filter until the water returns to be crystal clear and we become one with so-called the inner nature. That is enlightenment, which gives us the ability to know. The most important concept, the same thing that we born with ignorance. Then we re-obtain what we have lost, which is the knowledge that we already have within ourselves. I know it doesn't make sense for some people to say that you already have something that you know inside, but you already experience from time to time things like intuition, insight, realization, or revelation in different level. Those are things that similar to what's so-called enlightenment. When your mind is still, when your mind is clear, it comes to you. It kind of understanding that it reveal you probably can't explain in word, but things that make sense to you in certain kind of way. Those are just a glimpse of enlightenment. Imagine you have all that in one picture, past, present, and future in one picture. That's what enlightenment is all about. So in order to get to that, it takes practice of the mind to keep it still, because each time the mind stands still, it gets filtered out of these contaminations until one day it gets to that clarity.
Thank you. So is that your purpose as a monk, to get enlightened?
Of course, as a monk, that is actually our final goal, which I don't know if I'm going to get in this lifetime, but at least I try to get as close as I can.
It's very interesting that you mentioned lifetimes. I know that in Thailand, especially monks, kind of we plan, in Europe, we only plan one life, and sometimes in Ukraine, we don't even plan one life. And we have a plan for what I want to do, to achieve, and then I want to buy a house or do this in my career. And I heard that in Thailand, monks plan even their next lifetimes. Is that a thing?
We plan all the way to the enlightenment day, which could take unlimited lifetime in the futures. That's the reason why we talk about things like this. If you want to take on a very, very long journey, the first one, you need supply. The second thing is you need a good vehicle. Number 3, you need a good direction. So 3 things we accumulate. Number 1 is to be generous, because when we give, we generous, we collect the supply for a future journey. When we keep self-discipline by not hurting anybody, any living beings, we don't say bad words against people, we don't steal stuff. So those things help us to help build up a good car, good body for us to continue this journey. And the meditation practice that we do allows us to have the mental clarity, which gives us the clearer directions, like a good map or GPS, so that we can keep going towards in this road journey to that day. So that's how we look at life. Let's put it this way: even though you don't plan very long all the way to enlightenment with unlimited time, take it this way though. The notion of the rebirth kind of being helpful, that it gives you something to pursue in the very long term. But if even you don't take it seriously, think of it this way: if you do what I said, be generous and be kind, not violating others people's life, property, family integrity, and be honest and speak nicely, you will be loved by people. Your life will be happy. And if next life doesn't exist, you already live a happy life. If it exists, you get a bonus. But if you're mean to people, you're so stingy, so cheap, and you just yell at people the whole time, you hurt everybody along the way, you're not going to be happy with your life. You're going to live in misery the whole time. If this life, if there's no next life, you already live in this misery life. But if next life exists, then it's going to be big punishment waiting. And then you're going to start up with less you have. So if you take it that way, at least I do it for the present moment to be good, to be kind. You get what you give.
I just remembered when you said the self-discipline is to constrain yourself in a way that you don't hurt other beings or don't create any distraction or chaos around you. Is as briefly as Buddha said, do good, don't do bad, and purify your mind. So I guess this is the don't do bad part. And I remember that in Pali language or in Sanskrit, it's called SILA. Is this correct?
It is SILA. Actually, the word SILA means normal state of human being. Because the difference between human and just animal is that we have higher quality of mind. And that higher quality of mind allows us to understand what others need. If you ask yourself what you love, you say you love your life the most. The same goes with me. I will love my life the most. And if you love your life the most, you don't want anyone to hurt, to violate your life. So, which means if I understand that as a human being, I should not do what I don't want to have. The same thing goes. Exactly. The same goes with property. In order to live comfortably, I need my clothes, I need my shoes, I need my house, my car. Things that I have, I don't want to be taken away. So which means I shouldn't take from others as well. I don't want to be taken advantage of, then I shouldn't do it to others, because I become more understanding about reality of normal human being would do. Besides my life, my property, my family is matter to me a lot. Then I don't want anyone being taken without me knowing though. So that's why I shouldn't behave in such a way to taking without permission. And then in order to live, I need sincerity, I need honesty, I need people to be speaking nicely to me, not yelling at me all the time. Then what? I should do the same thing. And then for us, we add the last one, not consuming intoxicant. Because in order to be able to respect this all the time, which means I have to be conscious. And to be conscious, I have to mental clarity. So intoxicant will reduce the ability to stay conscious and make good decisions.
Yeah, to be honest, for me, the intoxicant part, I was exploring it for a while, and probably for everyone there is a certain level of their mind clarity that we need to achieve before we decide to do it. And I don't really judge when people drink wine or something, but at some point for me, I decided that it wasn't doing me any good. And that was also the result of my meditation, I think. I could really feel that if I smoked or drank, then it would really, really affect my mind. But when I just started meditation, I wouldn't notice it.
Yeah, it's like if you clean your house. If your house is completely clean right now, if you see a piece of trash, you know it right away. But if your house is really full of trash, you don't realize when you add 10 more trash on it. It's the same thing goes with your mind. When you meditate, you start to see differences when the mind is clear, when it is not. So whenever you input intoxicant to reduce the quality, you can see immediately. But before that, it was kind of blurry line anyway. And there are a lot of things that we don't to cloud ourselves from having that judgment on it too. So that's why sometimes it's becoming kind of incentive.
So why I remembered SILA, this word, it's very amazing for me because in Ukrainian and in Russian, SILA means power. And it really resonated because I have a feeling that when you take your discipline into your hands, that's also when you take your own power. That's not when your instincts or your senses or even your mind are controlling you, but when you are controlling all of these things. And it all starts with discipline.
Yeah, SILA has its own power as well. In our text, we said you are protected by your own SILA. That's what we say, good person don't fear walking through fire. Because, if I never hurt anybody, I don't have to be afraid anybody will be doing anything to me.
Also, I want to ask you about these magic tattoos that people get in Thailand. I heard about them. I actually have one, but the guy who gave me one, he was this monk in Chiang Mai region, I asked him, are there any rules to follow for me? And he said, just don't hurt yourself and others. So he was very general, and I kind of liked it because I heard from other people that they had such strange rules. Normally it's about the self-discipline, so following this SILA, the precepts. But I heard that somebody was told to respect your mother and father and not to eat pumpkin. And somebody else got this advice that for your magic tattoo to protect you, you have to not spit in the toilet. And that was so weird for me. So what do you know about these, and does it really work this way?
Okay, this is actually quite a long story though. Okay, first of all, the magic tattoo is not something that monks should be doing. First of all, because our practice is not to get kind of mixed up with this kind of magical sorcery stuff, because it's something that strays us away from pursuing the purity of mind. You kind of get attached to the kind of physical power. So how this thing works it has been in Thailand for a long time, and actually is in many other countries as well, but you just don't do it in this way of tattoo. But it's actually called borrowing the spirit power. You are borrowing power of the spirit. This spirit it's not like, a super being or anything. It was just like human like you. But now they're already dead. And their spirits still live on around us. They're still kind of clinging on in this realm. So, and they are a lot. So when we sort of like submit ourselves to the power, we can borrow that power as well. Because this magic tattoo is supposed to be helping you to, like people kind of, you be more charming, for example, or protecting your body to be stronger, stuff like that. But it's all in all, it's about kind of borrowing the power from the spirit. And when you borrow, what does it mean? You have to be in debt, which means you're going to have to pay back. When you submit yourself to the power of someone, it means you have to be part of it later on to do the same thing as you have been in debt with before. So that's the way it goes, like a kind of a cycle. But then when you say that different rules are applied, because that depends on the group of the spirit. Some groups have certain kind of rules that pass down so that you don't violate it. If you violate it, it means that you're not trying to follow the instruction, or you disobey the instruction of someone that you have submit yourself to. So that became this rule. That's why some of them have very positive rule, like keeping the self-discipline, the SILA, because these things generate positive energy. So these are a bit more kind of light side. But there are also those in the darker side that may have something very terrible to have to act as well. So that depends on the kind of group of spirit that you kind of submit yourself towards. So in general, that's what it's like.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Now I'm thinking, well, I didn't have any bad rules. So I hope I'm okay with my tattoo. Actually, my friend, she told me, I want to get a tattoo, but I want to write something so meaningful on myself. And I said, well, I actually have something written on me and I have no idea what it is. It's in Lanna alphabet in the North Thailand. And she looked at me like I was crazy. But I like it. Okay, and the last part that I wanted to ask you a couple of questions was about meditation, because that's how we met. I learned meditation from you, and that's how we continue sharing meditation around the world. So for the person who has never meditated before, how do they start meditating?
So if you're going to start meditation, log on to peaceevolution.net. Because I actually already provide you with the tools to meditate, with the guided meditation and all that, because that way you can also keep up with the practice. Lockdown, there will be peace coaches that give you comment and encouragement to keep up forward too. That in general, with the tools that are already there, that can be help facilitating the practice. But if you want to really practice meditation, first, number one, the term meditation refers to development of mind or development of quality of mind to the state where it stands still, peaceful, and focused. Then the mind cannot be still because it's always moving around, it's wandering into different thoughts. As you're sitting here, you think about different things. That's the nature of the mind. And we don't see the mind. So that's why all meditation technique is about recognizing thoughts or feeling and prolong the attention with the selected thoughts or feeling. For example, if you selected to keep your attention with your breathing cycle, I'm breathing in and breathing out, that's the starting part, and kind of to maintain it. Or I'm repeating the word inside my mind here, clear and bright, here and now, peace and love. As long as I'm hearing it, I fix my attention there. Or I visualize myself having the sun shining bright within me, and keep my still right here at the end of my breath. That is also a way to meditate because I fixed my attention at one point. That has to come with an element of being able to stay comfortable and relaxed, because if you force fixed, the mind gets struggle, kind of strain. When you push something very hard, it kind of go away. So the mind doesn't like to be there. So if you stay there, you feel like I'm just enjoying this time to stay relaxed, at the same time acknowledging what I'm doing and observing with the present moment. That actually allows your mind to still slow down bit by bit until it comes to stillness on its own. So basically, that is general idea of meditating. It's different from daydreaming when you lie down and just let your thought keep drifting from one to the next. That you are able to acknowledge that you're watching it. The key to meditate is actually to acknowledge the present moment when you're observing what's going on or what you have selected.
Thank you. So to meditate is to become an observer, and eventually it will still your mind. And I have a bunch of guided meditations that I've recorded for this YouTube, and you can try meditation with them, or go on now the website is called WPI Foundation, the Peace Revolutionist Project. There is a 42-day online program there where you can learn to meditate for free. And if you want to take your practice deeper, which what I have learned was really helpful for me, is to meditate in a group of people or have a circle that supports you, because as soon as you take up a new habit, you are really excited about it when you start, and then it kind of slows down. What we do with when we invite Monk Pasura is we organize online meditation retreats, and if a new one is up, I'm going to leave a link under this video. So you have a lot of opportunities to meditate with us. And if you want to invite Monk Pasura or any other monks that I know from Thailand to do a meditation workshop at your company or organization, please reach out to me, either private message or write a comment, and we can possibly, at least at this moment, we can potentially organize it. So thank you so much, Monk Pasura, for your time. Thank you so much for all of your insights. To be honest, every time I talk to you, I learn something new, even though I've heard your lessons like 20 times in Thailand in different retreats. Every time it's like putting myself in a new in an environment where someone with a very powerful mind is next to me, and I just get insights all the time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, for watching our interview, for asking your questions. If you still have any questions for the monk or for me or about Thailand or meditation, please just drop them down in the comments, and we'll be happy to answer them as soon as we get them. And all the comments to all the meditation resources are down below. If you want to connect to Monk Pasura on the daily or weekly basis, there's this group on Facebook called Mind Stories. They also have an Instagram and an app. I invite you to sign up there. And if you want to connect with me, jump down and sign up to my newsletter, because that's where I share all the information soonest. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember, only you decide how bright you shine. See you in the next one.